Hey, welcome to Adapted Not Disabled. My name's Scout. I wanted to make a video because I was so inspired by a comment and I was really, not taken aback. Because there's something I'd considered. Basically they said hey, if something happens, you're going to eat through your pantry in about 2 or 3 days. And while I think I'd get more than 2 or 3 days, they did bring up a good point. I don't have much of a buffer. That's why we stockpile, Now I still kind of stand by my personal opinion because it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. I don't recommend that for everyone, but it's what works for me. And let me tell you why. So let me talk about first thing, space. I actually literally do not have the space for it. I barely have the space for my own stuff, and then I also live with a roommate, so there's that consideration too. And also, if I were to stockpile a month's worth of food, I guess I could make it work, but it would have to, be in the form of, a fort that I slept in, made out of beans and, soup and stuff. And although the mice would be extraordinarily happy in our apartment, I would not be very happy, nor my roommate. So that's one side of it. And honestly, probably, the biggest side, because the other side is the financial piece. Now, stockpiling doesn't have to be that expensive. However, I don't have extra funds to throw around on that. All the funds that I have are pretty much going to my basic needs, pretty much. All the luxuries that I do have are, stuff I've had before, and then the stuff I'm investing in is pretty much for the survival stuff. So, that I don't want to sacrifice any of my financial well-being for the possibility of maybe in the future dealing with some type of survival situation. So there's the financial piece, and then I want to also talk about blind spots and vulnerabilities within prepping. So you won't be able to not have a vulnerability in prepping. You could reasonably prep as much as you possibly could for an economic collapse, but you wouldn't be prepared at all for a nuclear war. You know what I mean? So there's always going to be bits and pieces and priorities that you have. A priority for me, sorry, my rats are fighting. So a priority for me is community. Okay, so that's what I'm doing right here with y'all. And I'm happy to have you all. Even even if I can't use my my skills that I'm learning to trade for food, I'd still rather be in a group of people that I can trust and be hungry than have stockpiled a bunch of food and be all alone. You know what I mean? So that's where my priorities lay, but I can totally see someone else thinking completely differently, especially if they have a family. Also, if I did have a stockpile, I would sure as hell not be telling the internet about it, because that's just a wonderful way to put a big red target on the back of your door that says, "Rob me," basically. So, being subtle in of itself is a survival skill. Now that we got all that covered, there is another reason on top of that though. So if I had the means, if I had the space, I would consider stockpiling some. And what I mean by that is maybe a month's worth, but I'm not stockpiling. When I talk about stockpiling, that's another thing. I'm usually talking about I'm talking excess. I mean, we have 500 tons of bullets, we have 10 years of food, stuff like that. That is kind of what I classify as stockpiling, and maybe that's wrong on my part, but yeah, maybe a month. So yeah, I'd probably do it just because I take this hobby somewhat seriously, but I'm not a hardcore prepper. I'm not. I don't have a bunker. I don't have a hydroponic pond with tilapia that I can eat and like solar. No, that's not me. Like I'm an enthusiast. I kind of dabble in this, and I'm still in the beginning parts of my journey. Like, to be completely frank, like I was really obsessed with this stuff when I was younger. Most of the stuff I present on here are like the stuff I've researched like somewhat recently, and like my own thoughts based on being a person who thinks a lot, So they're just ideas that I'm throwing out there in the ether. Like, please always do your own research. I'm extraordinarily welcome to any sort of like critique based on what I say. Like, I know I'm not right 100% of the time. Please also make sure that you're having more than one viewpoint. So like, you have me, who has like more of like the chill kind of vibes, like the chill, let's go on this journey together type of vibes. But also you're like listening to some experts, because I really respect those people. Oh, and that's another thing. Like, when if I ever diss something, it's because I'm trying to be funny. I'm not actually dissing people who stockpile or anything like that. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to be a silly goose. I have a lot of respect for people who go to that extreme, because like, wow, that's like dedication. You know what I mean? And those are the people I learned from. So hella respect. Another piece of it all, like, please don't use me as a survival how-to book. I am not that. I am not an expert. I'm nowhere near an expert. I'm just getting back on my journey from like when I was like an obsessive like 10-year-old, you know what I mean? So this space that I'm creating is it's more of a community than like a how-to, right? So I'm welcoming you on my journey. And although I'm doing my best to be as careful with my research and use reputable sources and triple check things, I just don't have the experience, like, at all. So if you're looking for like how-tos, like, please like look for other experts, and like, to be honest, like, you need to be careful with like what they say too, because what they are saying for their situation may not reflect for yours. You know what I mean? Like, not everyone can afford to like move to the mountains and live off like the tilapia hydroponic pond fruit farm thing. You know what I mean? That's not reasonable for everyone. So I think that's like a really big value of mine, and part of the reason what I'm doing on here particularly. I want to make prepping seem extraordinarily approachable. Like, you taking one baby step by making an emergency bag and also learning how to start a fire is like already putting you loads way ahead of like most people, right? And then not only that, you can build off from there. Because like, I feel like prepping sometimes feels like this massive scary thing. Like, you need a bunker, you need like 10 years worth of food, like, and it's like, how do I even get started in that? Like, what if I don't want that? And you know what, you might not want that. Or like, let's say like, what are you prepping for? You know what I mean? Like I said, like, what if you're prepping for like a nuclear war? That's a lot different than an economic collapse, and it's a lot different than from living in the woods. So it's all based on your preferences, and really just like, I think what feels good for you, right? Like again, like I said, for me, it's really important to feel good now, as well as be prepared for the future. So I will not sacrifice my health or anything about my current state for preparing for the future in that way, right? So I'm not going to forego any medical treatments because I need to prep just in case the sun blows up or something. I don't know. Like, it's just like, that is not a certainty, but my medical problems are. So I just think that, I really hope like I got my point across. It's like late at night. And I don't know if I'm talking any sense right now or any coherence, and this is why I script my videos. I know it's a lot more like personable when I'm doing this, so I'm gonna try to do this more, but ultimately, like, girl, like, I don't know, we'll see. So I did kind of want to wrap up and say that my hope for this channel is to create a community. I do all of this because it's kind of hard to put into words, but I'm gonna have to be like kind of like vulnerable here for a second. So in the past and somewhat recently, I've had a really hard time committing to like living, right? And especially being like a newly disabled woman, that was like really hard, and feeling capable and feeling like I can be self-reliant and all that sort of thing was really hard for me. I recently got back into survival because for me, it's not necessarily about making sure I survive through a situation. And this is what I mean, like prepping is a different journey for everyone. Like someone might want to take it a lot more literally and seriously than me. But for me, it's about actively doing things that is telling myself that I will commit to living even in the most dire of situations. And a lot of this, and part of the reason why I'm so focused on like the skills and everything is because it makes me feel capable today, right? Feeling empowered every single way and not overwhelmed and not terrified and not fearful, because prepping doesn't have to be a thing based on fear. It could be based on empowerment. And I want this channel to be for everyone and feel like everyone can voice their opinion, because everyone's opinions matter. And then finally, I forgot to mention, yes, this is very much a big part of this is doing this as a disabled person, because I wanted to feel that self-reliance and autonomy, and it really has helped me. So let's build each other up and not break each other down, okay? Please, like, you can be mean to me. Well, please don't do that. But like I am more tolerant of. I've taught middle schoolers before, so I can freaking handle it. I can freaking handle the critique. But like, let's lift each other up, okay?